biggest comeback of the season is complete for the Thunder, snatching one away from the Rockets here on the road.
Welcome, guys. Good to see you again. Today we are talking about the Thunder's big comeback down in Houston. It was on MLK Day, a 112-107 come-from-behind victory, and this was the third and final meeting between these two teams, Western Conference rivals. They'd split the season series, and so it was a big-time victory for the Thunder. And Mike, I'm just curious, what did this mean? What was the big picture when it came out of this game?
Well, first of all, you were coming off a big win against Portland, and then you got the Rockets again for the, second time. What I remember biggest about that whole game was, Adams going down, a minute and a half in the first quarter. He goes down with an ankle injury, comes back out, shoots the free throws. He's done for the rest of the game. And now from that point on, it's small ball for the Thunder. I thought the Rockets didn't do a very good job of trying to figure out how to be effective against the Thunder that night without Steven Adams, without Nerlens Noel. So, you're talking Mike Muscala playing a little center. I think I remember Danilo playing center. The defense Dort on Harden. I thought, when you talk about big picture throughout the game was really, really a big key to that night.
Yeah, I remember looking back at the schedule, and that was in that part of January, guys, where the Thunder really didn't have a whole lot of time to catch their breath. They were in that part where they were playing 17 games in the month, but this was still one of those games that you highlighted on the schedule. And the Thunder had really taken care of the Rockets earlier in that month. But coming into this one, the Thunder were so undermanned. They didn't have Nerlens Noel. They didn't have Opto Nader. They didn't have Terrence Ferguson. And as you said, Mike, Steven Adams goes down. A minute and 36 into this game, you had Deonte Burton playing center. You had guys playing in roles that they weren't accustomed to playing. And really, it was a game that could have been really frustrating for Oklahoma City going throughout. They really struggled to score the basketball and had to adjust, and finally were able to in the fourth quarter. But this was as big of a win as we've seen this Thunder team have throughout the season.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about big picture, it did very little in the standings. The Thunder hung on to seventh with a quality road win. Bottom line, they were still 4 games behind Dallas to move up substantially in the standings. But I think it, again, sort of validated what the identity of this team is all about. And bottom line, they won the season series from the Rockets. So with that, they have the tiebreak against Houston head-to-head. They only played 3 times during the regular season, and OKC won 2 of those 3. I think psychologically it also sort of battens things down for this team come playoff time if they have to deal with Houston, because they know they have some matchups that the Rockets, I would think, have concerns about. You mentioned Lou Dort, Michael, and Lou in that game just absolutely stymied James Harden off the dribble. So was that a case of Harden not being on his game, or was it that Dort has the mechanics and the natural gifts and abilities to really lock him up? That's a concern for the Rockets down the road here if these two teams collide with bigger stakes on the line.
Matt, you mentioned psychologically, this was a case study in crisis management, having the roster flexibility and then the in-game confidence to actually use it. Great job by Billy Donovan in that regard. There were so many pivotal moments in this game, guys. Just your take on maybe what a huge sequence was that changed this game for good. Start with you, Chris.
I'm going to go with the obvious one to just kind of set things up. Things really had not gone well for the Thunder up until about midway through the fourth quarter, trailing by double digits throughout. Offense was really hard to come by. But for whatever reason, with just under, I'd say, 7 minutes to go in the game, and the Thunder down by 15 points, Mike D'Antoni challenged a foul call on James Harden on a layup, and on Lou Dort was going to go to the free throw line. He challenged that. It was a successful challenge, but what it allowed the Thunder to do was just kind of take a step back. They hadn't been able to kind of just stunt the Rockets' offense up to that point. But for whatever reason, the Thunder were able to kind of take a step back and regroup and kind of find themselves and explode to the finish line in the fourth quarter, putting up 41 points. Because from that point forward, they just blew by the Rockets. They evaporated that 15-point lead in about 2 minutes thanks to Danilo Gallinari. But for whatever reason, Mike D'Antoni made that challenge, and it just completely turned the trajectory of the game.
Guys, this was freakish. I mean, you don't see this in pro sports. You don't see it in the NBA for certain. The Thunder scored 14 points in the third quarter. They shot 6 of 26, and all of a sudden, they began to get their legs and get some life. About midway, as you said, Chris, through that fourth quarter, and they unleashed Dennis Schroeder in transition. And on the break, he had 15 fourth-quarter points. He was unguardable during stretches of that fourth quarter. And in a blink, Gallinari makes a couple of big three-pointers. The Rockets go cold from three. They shot 20% from three in the game, and the Thunder right there on the doorstep. In a game where it seemed like the Rockets were in control, I think the Rockets were shocked at what was happening. They never regained their bearings. And the Thunder wound up closing that fourth quarter, outscoring Houston 41-20 to win the game by 5. And you felt like if they had continued to play, the Thunder would have won the game by 40. It was just remarkable, the dramatic change that went on in that second half, third to fourth quarter.
Well, Fish, you brought up, I thought, a good point just a moment ago with the amount of guys that were out. I mean, you read off a laundry list of guys that missed that game. We lost Adam in the first part. You know, the thing I take away from it is that you sometimes just got to throw stats out. You just got to say, look, all right, we don't have this guy. We don't have this. We don't have rebounding. We don't have perimeter or interior defense or whatever, and just play basketball. And it came down to really a lot of guys making a lot of different plays. Now at closing time, Schroeder was sensational. At closing time, I thought Shea was sensational. But when you look at the big picture of how things happen, it was really just a collection of what happened in that game. When I try to look back and say what moment, Chris Paul had 27 points in the first half, 1 point in the second half. Does that make what he did the first half not that important? No. You know, it's guys taking over at different points in the game. And I thought that really was the epitome of team basketball that night.
Well, the guy that really punctuated things for me in sort of a pivotal fashion was Lou Dort taking that huge charge on James Harden late in the fourth quarter. It was a part of a night where he had held Harden to 1 of 17 shooting from the three-point line. And guys, that kind of leads me to accolades. Who was your man of the match or maybe decision that you want to, kind of give the accolades to, the kudos to?
Well, I think that, Michael, you hit on it, and that's Chris Paul in the first half, because that was one of those games where the Thunder were shell-shocked by losing Steven Adams and having to adapt and adjust on the fly. So I would say kudos to Billy Donovan, one, for having trust in going to lineups that had no familiarity with one another in game circumstances on the road. He had trust in a number of guys in different roles, and they responded. And I think the other thing is that when we talk about a guy like Lou Dort being inserted into a game against a player that we know is going to get benefit of many, many calls, and he got to the foul line 13 times, but James Harden in that game made 9 of 29 shots. He was 1 of 17 on three-pointers, never gained any steam off the dribble. The herky-jerky rhythm that he tries to get into against opposing defenders, have them on their heels, Lou never bought. And so he just stayed in front of him the entire game. And when you minimize James Harden's impact for a Rocket team that so counts on him and his usage and Russell Westbrook, Russell did his part, but James did not. I think that left the door open. The other thing to me, guys, is that Harden goes to the line more often than anybody. Thunder got to the foul line 9 more times than Houston in this game, and they converted 8 more free throws. And you're coming back from 15 down with 7 minutes to play. That's mammoth.
Well, I think, Matt, I agree with you, especially the part about Billy Donovan. Now, this is when I started preaching, about Billy Donovan possibly being coach of the year, because what I saw that night, my player of the game, was how he masterfully coached that team, kept everybody together, and CP3 did his job on the court, keeping everybody cool with everybody missing. You knew you didn't have certain guys coming into the game. But when you lose your starting center, it changes the game for you. Now coaches got to coach on the fly. You can't pick up that little piece of paper now and go, okay, well, this is my lineup that's gone now. And now you got to all of a sudden just coach. And I thought Billy Donovan did a good job of coaching that night, just moving guys around, sensing when some guys got tired, some combinations didn't work, and then he put others in there, put some guys in positions where they weren't a little bit comfortable. But on a night like that, when you have that many players missing, everybody's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Everybody's going to be asked to do a little bit more. I think Billy Donovan was the guy. To me, he was the man of the night for me.
Yeah, one of those adjustments too, Mike, was having to put Mike Muscala in at center for 25 minutes. He played 25 minutes in that game. They got a little bit of a break with Clint Capella picking up his fifth personal foul, I believe, early in the third quarter, and so the teams played pretty small, but there were so many in-game adjustments from Billy Donovan. I mean, you're not anticipating losing Steven Adams a minute 36 into the game, but it was a team effort, and I thought Dennis Schroeder obviously made the big shot at the end and had a big second half, as we've seen him do so many times, that helped finally put the Thunder over the top.
just leave you guys with one last thought. You were all kind of touching on one word that stands out to me, and that's composure. And really, the Rockets did not do a good job of maintaining that, allowing Clint Capella to be in a position to get his 5th foul against a very small Thunder team early in that third quarter. Meanwhile, OKC had just one timeout remaining for the final 21 minutes of this game, and they still managed to get in there, stay in there, be composed, and finish this one out. Guys, it was so much fun to rewatch this game. I know Thunder fans are loving to go back and take a look at some of these very best games of the season as well.
That was a good one, guys.